Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Biochemistry High Yields with me Dr. Lohita, and in this class we'll get to know or we'll learn about beta oxidation. So in this video you will learn where beta oxidation occurs, what are the steps involved in the process, what is the Carnitine shuttle, what is the force. Let's start. Firstly, what is beta oxidation? The meaning of beta oxidation is breakdown of fatty acids to give energy. And where does it occur? It occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. Long chain fatty acid undergoes a 4-step cyclic process, that is oxidation, hydration, oxidation and thiolysis. These are the 4 steps and it undergoes cyclically, and with every cycle one acetyl-CoA molecule is released. This acetyl-CoA molecule enters citric acid cycle and finally it gives ATP as the energy source. So, the breakdown of fatty acids is what is called as beta oxidation. And why does it occur? It occurs to give us energy. And where does it occur? It occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. Firstly, why is this called beta oxidation? This is called beta oxidation because the site of oxidation occurs at the beta carbon. So a carbon, the first carbon which is next to the carbonyl group is alpha carbon, and the carbon next to the alpha carbon is called as beta carbon. So, and because the oxidation occurs at the beta carbon, this is called as beta oxidation. You have to remember that the beta or carbon is the place where the oxidation occurs. So that is why this process is called as beta oxidation. Next, beta oxidation mainly occurs in 3 stages. First stage is the activation, where the fatty acid is activated to form fatty acyl-CoA. And this activation occurs in the cytoplasm. Remember that the activation process of the fatty acid occurs in the cytoplasm. The next process is the transport of this fatty acyl-CoA through the mitochondrial membranes, and this occurs through a shuttle pathway called as Carnitine shuttle. Then, after the fatty acyl-CoA reaches the mitochondrial matrix, it undergoes a 4-step cyclic process, that is oxidation, hydration, oxidation and thiolysis. So these are the 3 stages: activation, transport and beta oxidation proper. Activation occurs in the cytoplasm, transport through the Carnitine shuttle from the cytoplasm to the mitochondrial matrix, and beta oxidation proper in the mitochondrial matrix. So first step is the activation of fatty acid, and this occurs in the cytoplasm. So what actually happens here? Fatty acids are activated to form fatty acyl-CoA, and this occurs in the presence of the enzyme acyl-CoA synthetase. This occurs in the presence of the enzyme acyl-CoA synthetase, and during this process 2 high energy bonds are utilized, that is 2 ATP molecules are utilized. So at the end of this reaction, what you see is the formation of a fatty acyl-CoA molecule, and the enzyme is acyl-CoA synthetase. So this activation mainly prepares the fatty acids for transport into the mitochondria. Next stage after activation is the transport of this fatty acyl-CoA molecule from the cytoplasm into the mitochondrial matrix, and this occurs with the help of a shuttle pathway called as Carnitine shuttle. These long chain fatty acids, they cannot directly enter into the mitochondria, so they use something called as Carnitine shuttle. So basically what happens here is, in the first step, the fatty acyl-CoA, it combines with carnitine with the help of an enzyme called as CPT1, that is carnitine palmitoyl transferase 1, and in this reaction you will see the formation of fatty acyl-carnitine and coenzyme A is released. Now this fatty acyl-carnitine is transported across the mitochondrial membrane with the help of a transporter protein, that is CACT, and then again inside the mitochondria another enzyme, that is CPT2, will convert back this fatty acyl-carnitine into fatty acyl-CoA. One important point you have to remember here is this coenzyme A molecule and this coenzyme A molecule are completely two different coenzyme A molecules, and also this is how this fatty acyl CoA is transported from the cytoplasm into the mitochondrial matrix through this carnitine shuttle pathway. So remember, carnitine acts like a carrier that helps this long chain fatty acids enter into the mitochondria. Now comes the third stage and the most important part, that is the beta oxidation cycle, and this is the fourth step repeating cycle, and this occurs in the mitochondrial matrix as we discussed. So first step is the oxidation, and the enzyme here is acyl CoA dehydrogenase. Here what happens, a double bond is introduced between the alpha and beta carbon, and you will see the formation of trans-enoyl CoA, and in this step 1 FADH2 is produced. Remember, first oxidation, FADH2 is produced. Second is hydration. Hydration is nothing but a water molecule is added, and because it is hydration, the enzyme is also enoyl CoA hydratase, and because a water molecule is getting added, the enzyme is hydroxyacyl CoA. Simple. Second step is hydration, enzyme is enoyl CoA hydratase, water molecule is added, and the product is hydroxyacyl CoA. The third step is again an oxidation reaction. Enzyme is beta hydroxyacyl CoA dehydrogenase, and you will see there is NADH is produced, and the product is beta ketoacyl CoA. And the fourth is the cleavage of the fatty acid, and the enzyme is beta ketothiolase, and the product formed is 2 carbons are released, that is acetyl CoA molecule is released, and a fatty acid is shortened by 2 carbons. So this shortened fatty acid again enters the cycle again and again, removing 2 carbons each time. So this is the beta oxidation proper. So for every cycle of beta oxidation, we get 1 FADH2 molecule, 1 NADH, and 1 acetyl CoA with 2 carbons. And this cycle repeats again and again, and it gets lessened by 2 carbons with every cycle. So you will see multiple acetyl CoA, multiple NADH, and multiple FADH being produced for a very long chain fatty acid. So one important point that you have to remember is that every cycle removes 2 carbons as acetyl CoA and generates 1 NADH and 1 FADH2 molecule. So let us quickly summarize the beta oxidation. Beta oxidation mainly occurs in 3 stages. First stage is activation and transport, and then second stage is transport, and the third stage is beta oxidation proper. We can even say activation and transport together comes under one stage. Activation is where the fatty acyl molecule is activated, and this particularly occurs in the cytoplasm. Though beta oxidation proper occurs in the mitochondrial matrix, this activation process occurs in the cytoplasm. So fatty acid is is activated, and it forms fatty acyl CoA, and this occurs in the presence of the enzyme acyl CoA synthetase. And now this fatty acyl CoA molecule is transported from the cytoplasm to the mitochondrial matrix with the help of the shuttle pathway called as carnitine shuttle, and the enzymes here involved are CPT1 and 2. Now once this fatty acid molecule reaches the mitochondrial matrix, it undergoes a 4-step cycle, that is oxidation, hydration, oxidation, and thiolysis, and with every cycle you will see 2 carbons are removed as acetyl CoA, and with every cycle you will also see there is liberation of FADH2 and 1 NADH molecule. So this is the summary of beta oxidation. So let us understand the ATP yield or the energetics of the beta oxidation involving palmitic acid. So palmitic acid is a 16 carbon compound. We have a formula is how many number of cycles a particular fatty acid will undergo. For example, this is a 16 carbon compound. It undergo n by 2 minus 1 is the number of cycles of beta oxidation that this particular fatty acid will undergo. So that will come about 7 cycles. So with each cycle, we know that for every cycle we will get 1 acetyl CoA, 1 NADH, and 1 FADH2. So it undergoes 7 cycles. It will give 8 acetyl CoA molecules, 7 NADH, and 7 FADH2 molecules. So 1 NADH ATP from beta oxidation, 1 NADH will give 2.5 ATP, that gives around 17.5 ATP. 1 FADH2 will give 1.5 ATP, so that will give around 10.5. So total from beta oxidation we have 28 ATP. This acetyl CoA molecules will again enter citric acid cycle, and for when every citric acid cycle total we get 10 ATP. So 8 acetyl CoA molecules into 10 will give 80 ATP. So total of 80 plus 28 gives us 108, but because 2 ATP are utilized in activation process, the net total is 106 ATP. So this is very important point to remember, that the first activation step costs 2 ATP. So the total net gain of beta oxidation is 106 ATP and not 108 ATP. So finally, to remember in this particular topic, you remember that it occurs in the mitochondria, specifically in the mitochondrial matrix. It is a 4-step cycle, that is oxidation, hydration, oxidation and thiolysis. OHOT, you can remember like this. And finally, you will see with each cycle 1 acetyl CoA molecule is removed, and this cycle repeats again and again till all the carbons are removed in the form of acetyl CoA. For palmitate, the net energy yield is 106 and not 108, because 2 ATP are utilized in the activation process. So key takeaway is beta oxidation breaks down fatty acids completely to generate energy in the form of ATP. So that's beta oxidation simplified from transport all the way to ATP production. If this helped, please subscribe to Biochemistry High Yield with Dr. Lohita, and keep revising, keep understanding. Thank you.